should I start? There's like a couple main components of the application. You have your LSAT, you have your grades, your letters of recommendation, and your personal statement. I think the most important part of the application is probably going to be your personal statement. You really want to take time to write this and let them see who you are, because you're just a bunch of numbers on paper otherwise. Kind of like blend insight into your story, kind of incorporate why you want to go into the legal field, but I don't say, like, don't only write about your internship or something like that. Write about something that you're actually passionate about, so it could be about the law, or it could have just been your life story. I can post my personal statement online for you guys if that would help, and you can feel free to reach out and email me, because I am going to try to start doing like a little coaching program for the application. So yeah, email me about that, because that could be like a whole separate video. Also, there is also, in addition to the personal statement, a diversity statement, which might not apply to everyone when you first think about it, but it is kind of a window to add just a little bit more about yourself. So you could talk about being first-generation college student, a member of the LGBTQ community, specific like your family background, like I talked about how my parents are from the Netherlands. Just think of something that kind of adds a different perspective to the law school community, and just shares a little bit more insight into who you are. Yeah, so I wouldn't leave it blank, because it's like a chance to share a little bit more about yourself. Your letters of recommendation. What you don't want to do is just, first of all, go last minute to someone and ask them to write one, because it's not going to be great. I mean, imagine how many other people are asking for a recommendation letter. You really want to do this probably the spring before you graduate, so that they have the summer to write it, and kind of start like going and building a relationship with the professor. This can include going to office hours, or just kind of like getting to know them. Don't bring up the recommendation letter right away, just kind of build a relationship and then segue into that maybe a couple months down the line. I would get maybe 2 teachers that you can that you've worked with, and then try to get maybe something from an internship if you do that, someone you've worked with, or maybe someone from like a community service program if you do community service, because that'll kind of just give them like your academics and also what you're like outside of the classroom. The LSAT and your grades kind of go hand in hand. You can have like good grades or good LSAT or both, and that'll improve your chances. I personally didn't have the best grades or LSAT. I had a 166 and a 3.59. So I honestly was shocked when I got in, but that just goes to show how important recommendation letters are, and your personal statement, and your interview, which I'll go on into in a different video. But yeah, LSAT, I would definitely recommend, don't go into it blind, don't take a test run, because when you apply, some schools average your scores out, or they look at all of them. So if you go in and like bomb it, that would suck, because you don't want that to get averaged with your good score. I think NYU takes an average of them, but don't quote me on that. So I would recommend the Kaplan course. They have books that you can self-study with, which are really useful if you have the dedication to do that. Side note, the specific books I would recommend getting are Powerscore. They have like a set of 3, so 1 for each section. There's like the logic games, reading comprehension, and then the basic analytical reasoning. And then Kaplan also has some books, but I would just recommend doing the course, to be honest. It's not necessarily the test that's that hard, it's sitting somewhere for 6 hours or however long the time is, and by the time you get to that last section, you're like completely drained and stressed out. So if you just like do mini time sections and don't do the full length, you won't have the stamina for the real test. I'm a first generation college student and first generation law student, so I know that course is really expensive, but they do have a program where if you submit your tax forms, you can get a reduced rate, like a reduced price, and it's something that you would really want to invest in because it sets you up for the rest of your life. Kind of, if you do well on the LSAT, get into a good law school, then get a good job. But that being said, you could also go to the library and they have like the prep tests, and there's lots of prep tests online that you can print out. So I would recommend building the stamina, like study the week, and then like at the end of the week take a practice test up until the LSAT. I would recommend doing it in June, and now they also have a July test. Because that, depending on when you get out of school, you can have like a month to prepare or 2 months to prepare. And then it's nice that you don't have to do it while you're doing your application. That's like just set and done with. Because it's a lot, most of the test is just knowing the test and knowing the question formats and stuff, which you will learn in the course. And like you get timing tricks and all that kind of stuff. As far as dates go, the application opens around, let me check on that. Okay, a lot of schools will open around August 15th or September 1st. So that's why I would recommend doing your LSAT in June or July, so that you have that out of the way. Don't need to stress about it, and it's ready for your application. And then you can spend maybe July and August working on your personal statement and all that kind of stuff, and securing the letter of recommendations, like following up from when you asked in your spring semester. And then you can submit the application. You're not stressed about it during your actual school, or if you're working during your work schedule. And then decisions happen around, I got one of mine as early as November, and then I got some of them in December, but you could also, like, I think I got one also like around March, which was a no. So an early decision is not necessarily bad, a later decision is not necessarily bad either. I got off a couple wait lists later in the year, but I ended up going with Harvard over those. So yeah, don't stress, just kind of like you submit your application and see what happens. So yeah, LSAT, letters of recommendation, like buddy up to those teachers, and don't ask someone that you are not 100% that you'll get a strong recommendation from, because getting one that's like, I had Velo in my class, he was great, like they want like specific examples which will really strengthen your application. So feel free to have oh my god, feel free to comment any questions you have, and I'll answer them. And yeah, I'll do a video on the interview process and all that good stuff, and maybe like a little tutorial on like the actual like filling out the application, if that would be helpful. So just let me know in the comments. See ya.